Hello everyone, I am Nick Harrison with Rocky River Woodworks, and today we are going to be talking about speed squares and the versatility of them, as well as how they apply to woodworking. Stay tuned. All right, so the first trick I'm going to show you is how to use a speed square to find a level line, not a plumb line, a level line if you don't have a level. We're going to hang a plumb bob on a screw or whatever you're working off of, wherever you're trying to find that level line. All right, let it settle. And then what you're going to do, each speed square has a pivot point. There's this little lip and there's a pivot point here. Put that pivot point at the top of your line up here. Try not to disturb your line. And then at the bottom down here, there's a scale that goes 0 to 90. That's a degree. There's a 45 degree mark dead center. So we're going to align the top pivot point with the top of your string line and the bottom with 45 degrees. Once you have that done, ensuring that your line is plumb, you're just going to mark an outside edge and then the other side outside edge. Now those 2 points are level. You can double check that with a level just to ensure that, that you are correct. And there we are. It's level with my 2 lines outside. So the most basic form of a speed square, and the one that most people are probably the most familiar with, is simply scribing a square line that is 90 degrees to the outside edge of your surface. So if you just use this little lip, put it on here, you could scribe a perfectly 90 degree line that is straight. You can also use this when you're using a skill saw. Simply slide it over, align the base plate up of your skill saw to hit this, hold this in place, and that'll keep you cutting a straight line. Similar fashion, the speed square is designed to do a perfect 45 as well. So instead of doing a 90 degree line, you could just line your point up here and scribe a perfectly 45 degree line. In the same fashion is the weird angles. So if you have a roof pitch, you notice on the speed square, most of them have a common scale here and then a hip val. That stands for hips and valleys. The common scale is your roof pitch. Now, most roof pitches are on 12. So you might have a 6 on 12 pitch, 6/12 pitch, a 7/12, a 4/12, whatever it is. So if you know that your roof that you're framing has a 7/12 pitch, what you're going to do is put your pivot point, allow this lip to hook into the top part of the rafter or the 2x4 here, and then pivot around until the 7 aligns with the outside edge of the 2x4. Once you have that, that is your 7/12 line, your 7/12 angle there. Same thing for degrees. So if we were to line up here with a 7/12 pitch, you also have a 30 degree that'd be a 30 degree roof. So if you know that you're at a 45 degree and you mark this line at 45 degrees here, if you were to put your square back up here, it would align with 45 degrees. Something else you're able to do with the speed square is to use the little scribe marks on the long edge. So this is the 7-inch edge here. So let's say you have a 90 degree line and you want to rip cut this at exactly 2 inches. You see there's a 2-inch mark and there's a scribe mark just on the other side. So you can simply line up your pin and drag the speed square to make a perfect 2-inch cut in from this edge. If you wanted you can use it reversely as well. So if you wanted 2 inches this way from your cut, you could simply line up your cut on the outside edge here, and then come 2 inches on this side. 1, 2. You know this is your mark. Square it up. Now you have a 2 inch by 2 inch perfect cut. The next thing I'm going to do is simply show you how to find the pitch of a roof. Now I've just kind of screwed some 2x4s here. We're going to pretend like this is a rafter and you don't know the pitch of it. This could be important to know the pitch of it if you're trying to cut new rafters or even scab onto a broken rafter. You're going to need to know the pitch of it. So this is how we're going to find it. Simply put an anchor, some sort of screw or nail at the top of the rafter and hang your plumb bob going straight down. I just disturbed it, so let's let it settle. And then what you're going to do is use that pivot point again and get to where your square, the long edge of your square is perfectly in line with your plumb bob. Once that's in place, you can then go over and look at your scale over here. In my case, I'm at about an 8. So now you know that this is an 8/12 pitch. It could be whatever if it was lower, but you know, you could find whatever pitch it is. But as long as you know this is plumb, use your pivot point, line it up with the string, and then whatever you're intersecting on this top edge, in my case I'm at an 8, we know this is an 8/12 pitch, 8/12 pitched roof. All right, what I'm going to show you here is called a seat cut, and the seat cut is the cut in this rafter, and you know, in real life, this is an example. And is the rafter where it sits here. This is just an example of a double top plate on your wall and then a stud in the wall, and you're trying to put a rafter, cut a seat cut for the rafter for that to sit onto the top plate. This is a 6/12 pitch, so we're going to use that in our example. So this is the rafter that we're going to cut a seat cut in. Now what you're going to want to do is find your 6/12 roof pitch first. And the way we're doing that is hooking our pivot point, dragging it down or rolling it down until we get to 6 over here, and then we're going to mark a plumb line. So now that we have our plumb line, there's a little diamond in most speed squares here. There's 2 ways you can find your seat cut mark. This is one of those 2 ways. So basically what you're going to want to do is put the diamond, hook your pivot point on the side, on the edge of your framing here, and then line your plumb line up through that diamond. And then you're going to scribe over. There's your seat cut. That's the material we're cutting out. Another way that you can make your seat cut is to simply go ahead and let's make our 6/12 plumb line here. So there's our rafter. This line is plumb. Another way you could do it is to flip your square upside down and align. Most squares have these little straight lines. Let me zoom in where you can see. There's straight lines here and here. And what you would do is line those straight lines up with your plumb line and then slide your square up until the 45-degree mark over here aligns with the bottom edge of your rafter. So there we're lined up, and 45 is right there. Now we're not twisting to get to the 45. We're just sliding it up and down. If you twist, it's going to mess up your angle. Scribe your line. There's your seat cut. One final way that you can just double check to make sure you have the correct seat cut is to get a straight edge, draw a square line, and then roll over to your 6/12 pitch, a line in 6 here, draw a line, go back to 90, and then see what the complementary angle is. So up here, the angle is about 63, roughly, through there. So if you go back to the same orientation as the diamond that we used earlier and line everything up, down here should be roughly 63. And in our case, it's at about 64. I might not be perfectly lined up, but there we go, about 63 with this line being straight up here. So I mentioned that I was going to talk about how the speed square applies to woodworking. Specifically cabinet making, I tend to use a speed square a lot simply for checking for square. If I'm making a carcass of a cabinet and I have the bottom shelf or any shelf and you want to make sure that the sides are perfectly square, this is awesome since it has the little lip. Simply put it on the bottom and make sure that it is square. The protractor feature of the square comes in super handy as well, even though that's primarily used for framing and stuff. But if you're trying to make an off miter, a weird miter, and you're trying to figure out what angle will add up to 90 or 180. This comes in super handy to do that. They do make speed squares in all materials and sizes. This is a metal one. I have a plastic one. They make them out of aluminum composite material. They make 7-inch. I think they make a 10, 12 inch, something like that. I don't have any of the bigger ones just because I don't use it a lot. I know I say I use it a lot. I do use it for cabinet making and miters primarily. If you're doing any sort of hand tool work, it does come in handy. If you're using a table saw with a miter gauge or a miter saw with an angle finder, stuff like that, most of it's kind of automated when you're using those tools. But this is super helpful to have around. They're cheap, and you can do a lot of things with them. There are other features of this that I did not talk about, specifically with the hip valley feature there. Again, I didn't talk about it because I don't do a whole lot of rafter building or framing or roof construction. So anyways, I hope you found this video helpful, and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.